these games all season, there's a bit of fatigue, but you kind of, especially when in a position like we are, yes, we've won the title, but there's that points target. That must really give you something to aim for.
No, I think that, and that should be a positive for these Blues players this afternoon. They do still have achievements to tick off this season, and certainly, you know, they've got almost every job done this season, but there is still one of those. You know, you don't want to get to the end of the season with 5 games left now, and not achieve those points tallies.
No, massively keep that momentum well and truly going. Well, just before we came on air, team news came out, so let's take a look through that. A couple of changes from the starting lineup that we saw against Crawley Town at the weekend. From having a look at that, Tommy, any kind of major surprises that kind of real leap off the page for you?
Yeah, I think there is a few surprises. I think it's probably more to do with it being the second game of 4 in 9 days. So certainly, you know, Dowell coming into the team, Gardner Hickman, Sam Stead, Grant Hanley coming in for his first start. So yes, perhaps more changes than you might have expected, but certainly understandable given this schedule of 4 games in 9 days.
Obviously talking about that points target to aim for, there's some personal achievements in there as well that are still attainable. Jay Stansfield can kind of get over 20 goals this season still. Yeah,
absolutely, and Alfie May's up there with 15 goals. So I think everybody, whether a striker would care to admit it, at the beginning of a season you're looking for 15, hopefully getting to 20, and they both have the opportunity to do that. And certainly, yes, there's been an awful lot talked about, and we speak about it ourselves with the initial points total and records that can be broken. But for those 2 goal scorers, that would mean a lot to get over the 15 and up to 20.
Yeah, and obviously after that draw at the weekend, it'd be great to get 3 points on the board today. Going away to a team like Burton, how much of a challenge is that?
They're all tough because everybody raises the game when they're playing against Birmingham City in this division. And Burton have started to pick up results. Yes, it looks like it's going to be a tough task for them to stay in the division, but certainly going to a ground that's very, very different to St Andrews at Knighthead Park. The Birmingham players, the ones that are starting the game today, are really going to have to start quickly and be on point today, because Burton at home, after a good point on the road, ironically, they've travelled a lot more miles this weekend than Birmingham have. So, you know, it'd be a good test for them this afternoon, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they start it.
Does it play into our hands a bit more, playing teams like Burton at this time of the season when they're still playing for something? Because we were speaking a bit earlier, and you say a lot of teams will come to Knighthead Park and they'll kind of put that low block in and make it quite difficult for us. But Burton need to win, so they're going to have to be a bit more open.
They do, but I certainly find that this season it's been not easier, but at times a little bit more comfortable for Birmingham when they've been away from home, because teams can't be so negative and produce that low block from the first minute. So, yeah, I think we've seen some of our better performances away from home, ironically. There's been some incredible ones at St Andrews at Knighthead Park, but certainly away from home it's been a little bit more comfortable at times.
It certainly has. Well, as we mentioned, the games are coming thick and fast, and that game, of course, on Friday, just 72 hours ago against Crawley Town. So let's take a look back at some of the highlights from Friday's match.
And Tomoki Iwata in the centre circle. Iwata seeking the run of Jay Stansfield. He's found him over the top. It's Stansfield for Blues. Big early chance, big early save for Toby Stewart on his EFL debut for the Red Devils, to prevent them dropping back down into League Two. As Stansfield, good strength to hold off his man, and Stansfield can burst, bearing down on goal. Jay Stansfield hits the foot of the post. So it's very rare that both managers start in the stands, but that's what we've got in the first half. So a second consecutive corner for Blues, right-footed by Pleckett towards Davis, who sends his header inches over the crossbar from the edge of the 6-yard box. As Laird surges forward, holds off the challenge of Kelly, and Laird offloads to Keshi Anderson, palmed away, but only as far as Stansfield arriving on the scene. But he's beaten. Clark charged down, but looks to release Keshi Anderson down the right-hand side of the penalty area. On the cover was Radcliffe, and he works it back to Stewart. Heavy touch, invites the challenge to come. It breaks for Peck. He pulls the trigger. That's blocked. Then Iwata will re-tee up Peck Sung-ho. Close control in the penalty area.
And not just the final touch.
But it's Crawley playing Blues in their own game as they managed to play out from the back. Now driving down the right-hand side of the penalty area and forcing a save out of Ryan Alsop was Hepburn Murphy.
Great. More of a zonal defensive position. Just all the Blues players standing in a line the opposite side where they can come back on side.
Peck Long delivery towards the back post, flicked back by Clara. Ethan Laird was in there in the 6-yard box, couldn't hit the target with the glancing. And here's Hepburn Murphy's been picked out, and Holohan has made the charge in behind. He's been found. The prod towards goal is saved splendidly by centre of the park for Blues. Djukovic, Harris, it's Pek Sung Ho. He's denied point blank, one-on-one with Toby Stewart.
Tommy, frustrating afternoon always those games, isn't it? You kind of go into that thinking Crawley Town could be another 3 points on the board, but just not our day.
No, it was probably frustrating is a good way to describe it. I think they had so much possession, so many chances. You know, we've seen the highlights there. You know, some really good opportunities. I think Jay Stansfield comes a little bit too early for him. If he'd have got into the swing of things and that chance comes 10 minutes later, then he scores with probably both of those. And then the one for me is Ethan Laird's header in the second half. That's a really good chance. But then we've spoke about him many times in here this season. Ryan Alsop pulling up 2 saves and making sure they get another clean sheet. So, yeah, a little bit frustrating, understandable, but the first of 4 games, they still only need to win 4 games out of the next 5, and everything's achieved.
No, it certainly is. We've mentioned that low block and how teams set up against you. As a player, and I guess from a tactical point, from a management point as well, how frustrating is that? Because we've seen this season Birmingham like to play on the front foot, like to play our way of football. We are kind of proactive rather than reactive. How frustrating is that from a player and a coaching perspective of having to try and break that down when you want to play your own game?
I think it just becomes the norm. You know, we've seen it so many times this season. The teams that have played really well against us have had a good defensive plan and broke on the counter-attack very, very quickly. Whether they've scored goals or not depends on whether they've got any points out of the game. But it's become the norm, and it's something that you can see. I believe you can see how hard they work on it at the training ground, because it is happening every week, particularly at St Andrews at Knighthead Park. Away from home, like I say, not so much, because teams have to show a little bit of accountability and come out and try and win games. And like you rightly say, Burton need wins, not draws.
They certainly do. Still a few games to go. Obviously, it's a nice position to be in, champions already, and that's kind of secured. So you're not going down to a final game of the season situation. What can Chris Davis learn, and what is he going to be hoping to learn from this team still? Because he'll obviously have big decisions to make in the summer for next year in the Championship. But when you've got this time to play with and you've got some games, you want to keep momentum going, but chance to try some things new, learn some things as well?
I think as a footballer and as a manager, a member of staff, you're always on trial. And you're always trying to learn something about the people that you're working with. And certainly these games, with what's happened with the disappointment of Wembley, and then these games coming thick and fast, and then the points total, can that be achieved or not? He'll always be looking at his players thinking, OK, well, let's see how you deal with this, because it might show me something for next season. And certainly he'll have a different game plan for many, many games in the Championship next year. So can he learn something now about these players, let alone the ones that could come in?
OK, well, let's hear from one of the players now then in the build-up to this match. We can get some thoughts from Alex Cochrane.
Alex, thanks very much for joining us post-game. A frustrating one that you couldn't quite get the winner there. What's your initial take on it?
Yeah, like you said, it's a frustrating game. I feel like on another day we were taking 3 points. We had some good chances first and second half, but it wasn't to be. Obviously got another clean sheet as well, which is good. And still unbeaten at home. But yeah, frustrating one, but we move on to Monday. A
couple of decent saves from Ryan Alsop, and you have yourselves yet another clean sheet in the league. Have you felt like you've really dominated as a defensive unit this season?
Yeah, it's been really enjoyable in the defensive unit. I think we've got a good sort of partnership going on with all of us. We know how to sort of play, and if other people come in, they know what to do. So it's been a solid foundation. But the next 5 games are going to be important ones, because we want to get more clean sheets as well.
So reaction there post-match from Alex Cochrane. And we also caught up with the gaffer as well, Chris Davis.
Well, Gaffer, you've had to watch today's goalless draw with Crawley Town from the stands. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought we made a very good start to the game. I thought we were excellent first 20-25 minutes. I thought we could have scored a couple of goals, and we got in multiple times, looked a real threat, really sharp, and we didn't capitalise on that, and then we just couldn't quite get that first goal in the first half, and then second half we looked a little bit slower than normal. We couldn't quite find those combinations to create chances, and you know, again, there was a few balls that flashed across, crosses, near misses. I think if you look at the game, the big picture is we should be winning that game fairly comfortably with the chances we created. Big chances. I think there was 4 big chances. But we didn't take them, so we have a 0-0 scoreline.
But and another side that are fighting for their lives at the other end of the table, another challenge for us to have a right good go at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it will be like that. It will be a team that's at home. You know, they have put themselves in a good position now to try and stay up. So they'll be fighting and scrapping for every last bit that they can. So we have to match that challenge if we want to get a victory.
Okay, thoughts of Alex, the manager there. Chris, of course, one more game in the stands for him after picking up that yellow card at Wembley last weekend. Obviously, it was only just a point at St Andrews at Knighthead Park. But again, unbeaten run continuing. Important to keep that momentum going as well, and that atmosphere vibe at St Andrews.
Yeah, I think the dominance of a clean sheet this season has certainly helped to put them where they are. So yeah, they'll be delighted with a clean sheet. But like, you know, Chris says there, says 4 chances. I think there's probably 5 or 6 where you'd fully expect to score a goal from those chances. So you can sense there's a little tinge of disappointment, but certainly nothing negative to be taken into today's game.
I think at some course sometimes we don't actually appreciate as much as it. We talk about, obviously, Jay can get a record this year with kind of getting 20 goals and scoring more, and Alfie for them personally. But defensively as well, a clean sheet against teams that are trying to prove a point against you is really, really important. And defensively, that's a real positive to take forward still towards the end of the season.
I think it's important to remember that when away teams in League One come to St Andrews at Knighthead Park, it's arguably the biggest game of their career for some of them. So they raise the game. You're always playing against people that are really at it because they're enjoying the surroundings. So that's why it's been difficult at home this season, certainly. And yes, clean sheets are vital. Ryan Alsop's, you know, he's been on countless occasions very little to do in a game and then makes a worldly save. So yes, part of that, and you know, the pairing of Clara and Davies that's, you know, taking a little rest today, but certainly that's been a big key to those clean sheets. And defenders, as much as, you know, Ethan Laird likes to get forward, and Cochrane as well, that little triangle of 2 centre-backs and goalkeeper pride themselves on a clean sheet, so they can be really proud of their season.
Of course, as well, that was the first home game after being declared champions. We've said that midweek game where we kind of got the promotion, but then also it was the first home game since being told you're champions, you've got your hands on the trophy. The fans have played an incredible part this season, and a special day for them, obviously on Good Friday, that first match at home since being told you've got your hands on that trophy. Yeah,
I think it's always strange, and it was the atmosphere was a little bit strange to a certain extent, but we see the players walk out week in, week out, the fireworks go off, the noise in the stadium's unbelievable, and it is a great match day experience now. We certainly know that. They've been in the stadium, you know, an hour longer perhaps at this point of kick-off, which is not the norm. That's happened for the first time this season. So yeah, great match day experience, great for the supporters to breathe a sigh of relief and get over the line knowing that we're back in the Championship next season. But hopefully certainly some more good results and good performances to come for them to enjoy before the break.
100%. Hopefully lots more good news as well, because we saw the EFL award nominees as well get announced this week, and a couple of nominations in there as well for our players, which is always good to see. Tomoki Iwata, good name to have on there. He's had a good season, some great goals as well.
He's been excellent. I've spoke about it so many times. His relationship with Paik in there has been certainly one of the foundations of a really strong team, and the goals that he's popped up and scored, you know, every time he gets the ball outside the box, the crowd want him to shoot. So he's scored some wonderful goals. He's created some opportunities. You know, we're seeing these ones here now. He's been one of the outstanding players. It's difficult to pick the outstanding player, I have to say, this season. There's just been so many good performances and contributions throughout the season.
Yeah, massive. Of course, that Newcastle goal was pretty special as well. You need players in your squad like that can step up on the big occasion. You mentioned their teams come to St Andrews at Knighthead Park and put a performance in, but when you're taking on a Premier League side and you can step up to the mark and produce what he did and the team did, it's important.
No, absolutely. And well, I've just spoken about what away players are like coming to St Andrews at Knighthead Park. You know, playing against the Premier League team for a League One team, whether it's Birmingham City or not, you raise your game for that. And we see, I mean, that's a wonderful goal. throughout the season, he's been a highlight of it, certainly for me.
Only 2 nominations. I know we're going to be slightly biased and we think there should be a lot more nominations, but quite honestly, there could have been. You know, when we looked at that team, we've spoken about goals with Alfie May and we've spoken goalkeeping-wise as well of Allsop. Could have been a few more nominations in there, maybe.
All over the pitch for me. I always tend to look at these awards that are given out for a season's review. Think what players would get in Birmingham City's team from any other club, and I'd be struggling to tell you, that player could fit into that position. I'm genuinely surprised that there's only 2 nominees. Certainly, Chris, you'd expect Iwata for me. 3 or 4 will be a surprise when we find out who they are, I'm sure, because the Birmingham City squad has been excellent this season.
Let's not forget Manager of the Year nomination as well for Chris. Thoroughly deserved.
Absolutely. I mean, it often goes to the team that wins the league. I get that. But for his first position and big job, if you like, he's worked in some big clubs and had a big role. But as the number 1, he's been excellent this season. Perhaps found it a little bit difficult today and on Friday's game to be not in the dugout because he is, he probably does 12,000 steps in that dugout every match day because, he is so energised and so right into it. And then obviously his celebration at the end has become synonymous with him. So, yeah, he's done a fabulous job, as have the staff around him. So, yeah, I'm delighted for everybody at the football club, but Chris to do that in his first year with the number 1 job, I think is a tremendous achievement.
What do you think it is that's made that work for him this year? Is it the way he connects with the players? Obviously, we've seen that connection with the fans is obviously really, really important. But the performances on the pitch is where it all really matters and counts. But tactically, from what you may or may not have heard from training ground and bits and pieces, seems to be really ticking all the boxes as a player perspective you would love to have.
Yeah, I think it's about personal relationships. You could either be an excellent coach or an excellent manager. If you're both of those, then it's certainly you're well rewarded for it. And for me, you can see technically the way that the team play. You can see how hard he's worked here at the Epic training facility. That doesn't come naturally to every player that comes into the starting 11 or comes onto the pitch as a sub. They've worked at it hard here, and that for me is where a manager earns his spurs, if you like, because of what he's done and the preparation that him and his coaching staff, it's not just him, I'm sure Chris would be the first to tell you, it's not all about me, we're a team, within a team. With his management staff, they've worked tremendously hard, on and off, not only the pitch, but the training ground. And that, for me, is the biggest success they've had this season.
That must be good to see, obviously, that being rewarded with those performances on the pitch as well. OK, on Good Friday, we made our way down to the fan park at St Andrews at Knighthead Park to get your thoughts on the season here on Blues Plus. So here is your 3-word reviews.
Unbeatable and no shock. I'm allowed 4.
Keep right up.
To the future.
Absolutely smashed it.
Absolutely amazing. Is that 2? Absolutely amazing. Fantastic.
Hey! Our club's back.
There you go.
Standing, magnificent and ultra amazing.
Fantastic. Unbelievable. Sublime. On the Blues!
Some great reaction there. Thanks very much to all the fans who got involved with that one. Tommy, your 3-word review of the season?
Every box ticked.
Nice, like that.
That's good,
like
isn't
that.
it?
The next line on my script says, Tommy's 3-word review of today's presenter standing in for Ellen.
Could do better.
Always room for improvement. Thank you, Tommy. Right, on Friday, of course, we had Martha Harris and Jamie Finn in the studio with us as well. And a fantastic result for the women's team. They're pushing for promotion into the WSL. And a great result for them, going 1-0 down, but coming back to win 3-1 at St Andrews at Knighthead Park the other day as well. Tommy, first of all, great to have Martha and Jamie in the studio.
Yeah, great to speak to them. Great to get an insight to the players, and they were a little bit disappointing at the start of the game, but they got back into it, got the goals, and it's that first game of a trilogy before you know, and potentially another promotion for the football club. So we know what Knighthead thrive for, to be an inclusive Birmingham City football club, whether that's the men's team or the ladies' team, and to have the success that the men have had, the ladies under 21s already, and then now potentially we've got 2 games left before one big one right at the end. It would just be a wonderful season for the football club.
No, it certainly would. Of course, Margate with the first couple of goals, and then Van Egmond with the winner there as well. And you said mentioned those 2 games to go away to Newcastle this Sunday, and then of course that final game, the 4th of May, at home to London City Lionesses, the winner securing promotion to the WSL. To have that in your hands must be a good feeling going into that. Sometimes when you're going into a game and you've got to rely on other results, it makes it quite difficult. But the fact that we've got that chance is a great position to be in. Yeah, absolutely. And Martha and Jamie on Friday were very clear that that's what they wanted and what they were looking forward to. I think if you complicate things by not winning your own games, that you're waiting for somebody else's result, it becomes a very difficult watch. But they have that opportunity to set up a final game, and it's winner takes all. It's, you know, at whatever level and wherever it is, that's exactly what you want as a footballer. You want to play in big games. Yeah. And how nice is it for you, having been involved with the club, to see the passion that Tom Wagner and the board at Knighthead have got to be supporting both teams? I loved it when we were talking ahead of last weekend's game of this could be like the 2nd/3rd trophy, but the first one was the women's under 21s trophy. I just think it's really nice and refreshing that there's a management team at the top of the club that are saying, no, our first trophy was the women's under 21s. I think that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, and I think it's been a smooth transition from them coming in to where they are now, with the possibility of 3 trophies at the end of the season for the football club, which is what Tom and the Knighthead team said they wanted to do to the football club in the area when they came in. And like I said, my 3 words were ticked every box. Well, they really have, because they've done exactly what they said they were going to do when they came in. Yeah, it's so nice to be at the end of the season when there are things to play for the men's team and the women's team as well. So let's turn our attention back to today then, because we want to try and get that 100 points if we can with the remaining games, and obviously try and beat the record. I think Reading's got the first record, haven't they? And there's another one after that if we can kind of get close to that one. Burton Albion, we've touched on it a little bit, of the challenge they'll face for us today. But when you're playing a team that's fighting against relegation, is that almost harder than playing the teams around you when you're at the top? I think there's always pressure on every game. There hasn't been one game this season that the boys have gone and played where there's been literally no pressure, because you're playing for Birmingham City in League One. Everybody outside of the camp expects us to be steamrolling teams and winning and keeping clean sheets every week. It's not like that. It's a game of football, and like we've already said, the opposition more often than not raise their game. So there's no certainty going into any games, and today will be no different. Burton are fighting for their lives, so they're going to go until the last minute to make sure that they can get as many points out of the game as they can. Like I said earlier, I think that actually enhances our chances of getting a good performance and a good result, because they've got to come at us. And if they come at us defensively, it's a tight little pitch, small little ground, certainly not what we're used to playing at home. If we get an early goal, I could see a really good performance, particularly with the changes, because they're hungry, those players coming in. So I fully get why Chris Davies has done that. Yeah, no, it's good to say that. Obviously, we're looking at those changes. We can have a little look at the teams and how they line up for both sides today. You mentioned those names of those players coming. They're going to be hungry to prove something. What have they got to do? Because obviously, with a few games left to go, they want to keep that place for the rest of the season, right? Well, they absolutely do. Yeah, they'll want to feel a part of this promotion-winning team. Yep. You know, certainly Burton players, they know what they've got to do. They've got to get involved. And since Gary's come in, you know, he's picked up results. We mentioned they've had a long trip at the weekend, but it's an opportunity for them to come back home. And I have to mention as well, every away game this season, we've sold out our allocation. Yeah. So it's a better atmosphere at every away ground than it is every week for those home teams that go in, week out, sitting in the same seats. So it'll be a good atmosphere. And when you score goals in front of the Blue supporters, even though it's a long time ago, I still remember it.
it is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, awesome. And I think we can take a look at that Birmingham Burn lineup then. Obviously, we mentioned those couple of changes with names coming in as well. We've mentioned as well people that can make a real difference today that have done all season. Of course, Allsop starts in goal and Jay Stansfield. Can he add some goals to that as well? Tommy, your thoughts on this one? Final thoughts going into today's game?
Well, I think you look at Ethan Laird and Alfie May, Keshi Anderson, Pate getting a rest, Ben Davies having a little rest. It gives those the opportunities into Gardner Hickman, Leonard, Dowell, and then obviously Hanley, very, very experienced player coming in. Good opportunity for them to show the Blues fans what they can do.
Totally, Tommy. Great to have your thoughts on the build-up to this one, of course. And if you are a subscriber via the website, of course, certain territories around the world, of course, you can watch this game live if you are an international viewer. And, of course, thanks for joining us on YouTube, Facebook and X for all of the build-up. All the information, all the details of how you can get involved by watching on those international territories and all the broadcast regs at bcfc.com. Well, the countdown to kick off is nearly complete. It's match day. The teams are out on the pitch. Let's get you across to your commentators for this one. Matt Delaney and Darren Carter.
Start at centre-back, Samstead, Leonard and Taylor Gardner-Hickman come in. Kieran Dowell has recovered from illness from Good Friday to start this afternoon. So Ryan Allsop starts in goal, seeking for his 6th away clean sheet of the league season. Samstead, Clara, Hanley and Cochrane. Tamaki Iwata and Mark Leonard. Kieran Dowell, Willem Willemsen and Taylor Gardner-Hickman, who has a goal and assist in his last away league game against Peterborough. In behind Jay Stansfield, who again is eyeing that golden boot in a race with Charlie Kelman at the top of that particular table. On the bench for Blues, Bailey Peacock, Farrell, Ethan Laird, Alfie